Welcome to today's 10-minute CEO interview. Today, I've got a really special guest, Ronald Miller. He is the co-founder of StartEngine. StartEngine, I think, has to be the largest crowdfunding platform in the United States right now. Welcome, Ron, to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, great. And how long have you been doing this on StartEngine?
We started together in December of 2014, my partner and I. At that time, he was running what was then the largest accelerator in Los Angeles. But he told me about the crowdfunding law, the new Jobs Act that had been passed. And when he told me about that, I said, Howard, this is probably the greatest advancement for entrepreneurship in a generation. And the reason I said that was because finally people could raise capital based on their ideas, not who they are, the color of their skin, where they live, how old they are. All of that becomes irrelevant when instead you can show the customer your innovation, your idea. And you can ask those customers to not just whether they want to buy the product, but whether they get so excited about what you have and your vision and your ability to execute that they just not only want to buy the product, but they also want to kind of join the entrepreneurial journey with you. And so that was kind of the vision of it. So back 2014, I know I gave you a long answer to a short question. But that's the story of StartEngine. And basically, our mission is to help entrepreneurs achieve their dreams. That's what we're trying to do. And Howard and I know, because we have both been experienced entrepreneurs, that raising capital is one of the hardest things that an entrepreneur has to do. And typically is where, great innovations get stopped.
Yeah, I tell you, I've raised a little money for a couple of operations. And the first time we raised money was for a startup called TurboSquid, and it was a marketplace. And it took a year and a half and nearly killed the other company that we're doing on. So crowdfunding. So before you had these big check writing investors, and they have the money, you want the money, you have to chase them. Crowdfunding has changed all of that. A lot of the big check writing investors kind of head for the hills. They're spooked. So what's going to happen with StartEngine and crowdfunding?
Well, we think that this is really a great opportunity for entrepreneurs to use crowdfunding as a primary source of raising capital. And there's lots of reasons for that. One is that, the velocity or volume of business that people are raising capital currently on platforms has increased significantly year over year since it's happened. So that's an important thing to know. And I agree with you that in today's environment, a lot of existing venture capital firms, private equity firms, hedge funds and the like, they are not taking on like a lot of new deals right now. Now they're putting money out there, but they're probably putting money to shore up the existing companies they've already made investments in, rather than, spreading that capital into new ideas. So that makes StartEngine well positioned to be able to step in. And frankly, there's never been a greater need for entrepreneurs than right now. Because at the end of the day, as you know, small business is what drives jobs, right?
Right.
And what do we need right now? Jobs. That's the most American and patriotic thing anybody could do, is to get out there, become an entrepreneur, and create jobs. That is, and so in order for that to happen, people need capital. And without the ability of those other sources, or certainly less of them, we think we're well positioned to be able to really help a lot of entrepreneurs and help the economy, grow.
It's not all like all I do is I call StartEngine, I upload my stuff, my deck, my video and everything, and all of a sudden investors pour at me, right? There's parts of it that still need to be done. I mean, you guys have a list, you tell your audience about it, but there's still responsibility on the entrepreneur side, right?
Oh, 100% on the entrepreneurs. Just like it is on everything. At the end of the day, if an entrepreneur thinks they're going to truly outsource anything in their business, they're mistaken, because their job is at a minimum to be directly engaged in the oversight to optimize outcome in any aspect of the company. But certainly in the capital raising, there's nothing more important than the senior team, the CFO, the CEO, or typically the folks leading the charge. And it's a job. And raising capital, as you point out, from your own experience just a few minutes ago about how much work it is to raise capital. No matter how you do it, it's a lot of work. Now, look, if you have a rich uncle that wants to write you $1 million check, well, by all means, send them an email and ask. go there first. Go to the customer second. If you can get them to prepay for the product, hey, we're happy to work on this. You got to understand we're a company in development. We need a, $10,000 deposit or whatever it is against the outcome. Then that's really a great way, because then you essentially raise capital where you don't have any debt or equity obligations that came from that because your customers prepaid. If you can find, there are business models out there in which that's the case, where there's a prepayment just generally required on the product or service. And those could be particularly good about now for entrepreneurs looking for their next new thing. But in any case, those are the ways of raising capital. And then when it comes to equity crowdfunding, yeah, it is on the responsibility of the entrepreneur or entrepreneurial team to be the ones that are responsible for the capital raise. We certainly add the regulatory compliance component. It goes through a review process on our system, and we do everything we can to ensure that these are quality entrepreneurs with quality deals that don't violate any securities rules and that are complying with it as they raise capital. That's a really important thing we do for entrepreneurs. And the second thing is that you're right, somewhere between generally 20 to 40% of people's raises do come from our community.
Let me ask you a question about the type of company that looks like it has the best prospects of succeeding on StartEngine.
Look, I think you want me to answer the question of what kinds of companies are best positioned for success?
Yeah.
Well, I would say is any company that has a founder, CEO that really understands the importance of marketing their capital raise and is willing and able to commit the time, energy, and resources and focus necessary to make it happen. So for sure that. But otherwise, consumer-facing companies or companies that consumers can understand, that helps. Or if it has some amazing new technology. For example, there was a guy who had a vertical takeoff and landing private aircraft that raised a lot of capital on the StartEngine platform. And even though that was a business-to-business product, it really had such a great and compelling story to it that people really appreciated that. And so somebody that has compelling, interesting technology. And finally, if there's somebody that has a community, a following, a track record of success, of starting companies and growing them, that always helps a lot too.
Yeah, let me ask you, I came across a guy that has a biometric security, meaning they just put his hands up to enter a building. He doesn't have to touch anything. He just puts his hands up and it reads biometric and he can enter. You think that would have any success on StartEngine?
Absolutely, because people can understand, look at that from a consumer standpoint. Now that we know about disease and infectious disease and how it gets transmitted, who wants to put their hands on anything? So this thing, everybody can understand. It's like, wow, of course, that's the way of the future. Everybody's going to have that. And people know it because it's their own experience in walking into a building, usually sometimes with their own key cards.
All right, good. Look, there's one last thing. I've seen some proposals coming out on raising the size of the CF raise and on the Reg A raise. You expect those to benefit you down the road, or how do you feel about those?
Oh, those are going to benefit, most important, the issuers who want to operate and raise capital under the regulations. Them a lot, and of course, if it helps them, it helps us.
Yeah. And what about the back door to selling stock on a CF? I mean, it's okay to say I'm going to raise the level to 5 million, but somebody says, well, how am I going to get my money out?
There are, and StartEngine will have some developments on that front. I can't really disclose all of the details, but they are positive for investors, I believe. And they address the issues that you're raising. And we should be able to, talk about that in the next 60 to 90 days.
Beautiful. Ron, thanks so very much for your time on 10 Minute CEO. All right, take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.